What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is AkeemHaynes. I'm a two-time Olympic bronze medalist, author, motivational speaker, and sports commentator. On my channel, we talk boxing, MMA, track and field, and of course, motivation and encouraging content. If this is something that you enjoy, then I hope that you subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get into the video.
Luis Nery versus Azat Hovhannisyan. This is going to be a very good fight. This one's happening in California this weekend. Let's just get into it. Let's start with Luis Nery, 33 wins, 1 loss, 25 wins by way of knockout. Now, Nery has traveled quite the path already. Let's go back a little bit and touch on a few things because I think it's important. I first started hearing about Nery back in like 2014, right? He had already been in 13 to 14 fights, and most of his fights were back home when he was in Mexico, right? I believe he turned professional when he was 17 or 18 years old. But back then, all I saw were highlights. Most of the highlights I saw was him winning fights in convincing fashion by knockout or putting on great boxing display of skills, outboxing his opponents and having his way. There was no doubt how skilled that he was and is. Right? He could box and he could bang with the best of them because it doesn't look like he has power in his hands, but he's got pop and he's accurate, puts together good combination. He's a good counter puncher. He can fight off the back foot and still be in control. However, at the same time, I'm like, you know what? Still have to see how he fights away from home when he's not in his home country, away from his comfort zone. He gets into his 24th fight and he travels to Japan to fight Shinsuke Yamanaka for the WBC and the ring bantamweight title. So I'm thinking to myself, and as many of you were probably thinking back then as well too, this is a big test. This is going to tell us a lot about Luis Nery's skill, confidence, poise in a championship fight. The fight starts, and in round 1, he didn't throw a lot of punches, but when he did throw it, it connected. You could see that it was hurting Yamanaka early. The second round started and it was similar to the first round. He wasn't throwing a lot, but when he did connect with the shot, it was easy to see who had more power in their shots and who was able to hurt the other sooner. But the 4th round started and it was like Nery said, okay, I've seen enough. I know what you're about. I have the timing down. It's time to do my thing. It's time to take over. And that's exactly what he did. Even though Yamanaka was trying to punch back, he got caught with the right hand that stumbled him, and it was over from there. In that fight, Nery looked poised. In that fight, looked like he was very ready for the moment, and his body language matched the outcome of that fight. Then I think it was a week later, he lost the title because he tested positive for a banned substance. They meet again in the rematch, and he bullies Yamanaka more quickly than he did the first time. I was very impressed with that performance because it showed that he was on the rise as a champion in that division. However, in the lead up to that fight, he missed weight. Anyway, he gets past that and he goes on to beat Joe Arroyo, Juan Carlos Payano, and Aaron Almeida convincingly, and he picks up the WBC super bantamweight belt from Almeida. Right, you with me? Okay, let's keep going. Then he steps into the ring with Brandon Figueroa. Now, going into that fight, I thought Nery was going to win that fight, but at the same time, I just wasn't 100% sure that it was going to be a convincing win, in my opinion. Nery doesn't always throw a lot of punches, and he's normally the guy that walks people down. He's one that's generally dictating the pace of the fight. He's the one that's usually having people fight off of the back foot. He's the one that is imposing his power, his skills on his opponents. But as many of you know, styles make fights. And as we know, Brandon Figueroa is a pressure fighter, a tactical pressure fighter, he likes to call himself, right? A guy that once he gets comfortable and gets going has no problems with letting his hands go. He's going to break you down with volume. He's going to continue pressing the matter. And honestly, it's probably annoying fighting Brandon Figueroa because he just sticks to you and doesn't give you room to breathe. But Nery was doing very well early in the fight. He was countering well. He was fighting in the pocket well. He was hitting in the body. He was the smaller guy in a bigger division, but man, he was throwing some great hooks. He was doing some great work, but so was Figueroa. because he wasn't backing down. He was throwing his shots and he kept coming forward and throwing. In the 7th round in that fight, this is when I kind of felt like Nery was in trouble, because before the stoppage, there was a time in that round, I think it was under a minute 30, right, where the ref broke them up for holding, but it looked like when the ref broke them up, it looked like Nery's legs almost buckled a little bit. And I was thinking to myself, oh, shoot, this does not look good. Either shots that he took from previous rounds was starting to add up. All the movement that he was doing to get away from Brandon Figueroa, to get some breathing room, to get some spacing, maybe his legs was getting a little bit tired and everything was starting to add up. He did look physically tired and his legs and body looked like it was starting to fade just a little bit. But I'm like, man, if he could hold on to the next round, he'll get time to rest a little bit and recover, and we'll see what he's able to do there. The ref times them back, and then Figueroa immediately landed 3 hooks to the body. Nery took a lot of body punishment in that round. Now, could Nery have gotten up from the shot that he took? The body shot that he took? Only he knows that. We don't really know what's going on inside of his body and his mind and what he was feeling in that moment. But what it did look like, he looked shocked when he was standing there and the camera was zoomed in and he was on his chair. He looked shocked, right? Because I don't think many people expected Brandon Figueroa to win that fight. And I'm sure Luis Nery did not expect Brandon Figueroa to beat him, nor did he probably think that it was possible, right? Even listening to the announcers, they had Nery up on the cards easy, but it was like, man, some of those rounds were pretty close. Now, as we've said many times on this channel, right, as we know, you are never sure how someone is going to respond after a loss. Nery steps into the ring with undefeated boxer Carlos Castro, and I thought he looked very sharp in that fight. He looked very powerful, and he looked similar to his old self. I wouldn't say quite there just yet, but he looked very similar to his old self. He was punching in bunches and flurries. He looked confident. Then he goes to fight David Carmona, right? And again, he looked sharp, patient, very accurate, and the power showed. It looked like Nery has gotten his confidence back. It looks like he's found his groove again. However, at the same time, Carlos isn't a pressure fighter. Carmona isn't a pressure fighter, not the most aggressive guy. And I think Luis Nery is more skilled than both of those men, and he's a bigger puncher than both of those men too, in my opinion. Azat Hovhannisyan, Crazy A, and Brandon Figueroa have similarities in common from that standpoint and that aggression. So it could cause some problems for Luis Nery, but we'll talk about that towards the end. Let's talk about Azat Hovhannisyan. 21 wins, 3 losses, 17 wins by way of knockout. His nickname is Crazy A, and I wasn't really sure why people were calling him that at the beginning, right? Or where he got that nickname from before I had seen him fight yet. Then you watch him fight and you can understand why. He's a guy that likes to fight. He's a guy that likes to engage in battle. He's a guy that can fight in both stances and pop you with the same power in both hands. He's aggressive and likes to throw those heavy shots. I think the more physical the fight is, the more Hovhannisyan, the more he likes the fight, the more he's engaged in the fight. Not only does he have power in his shots, but he throws them in flurries. He can reach you from a distance, but the distance is not where he's most effective, right? He's most effective when he's in that mid-range area. If he gets you in that mid-range area, man, that's trouble and problems for his opponent. A good example of that mid-range is when he fought Franklin Manzanilla, right? Who is an aggressive puncher and a big puncher as well, too, right? He was in that mid-range sweet spot with him in the 2nd or 3rd round, I believe it was. Right? And Hovhannisyan caught him with looping left hook 3 times in a row and connected 3 times in a row. I was like, Franklin, you got to get out of that spot, man. It's not going to be good for you. Hovhannisyan, he can suck you into fighting his fight. If you get too emotionally attached to the fight and try and bang with him rather than sticking to your script, you are in trouble, because he is unrelenting, he's consistent, and he smothers you. And sometimes he's just unpredictable in what he's going to do. And that makes it a tough night for anyone. You mix that with the fact that he's a big volume puncher. He takes good angles and he's not flat-footed with his movement. He might not get as much credit for his footwork because of his style of fighting. When he fought Ray Vargas, he came out swinging, right? And caught Ray Vargas with the straight hand right down the middle that pushed Vargas back and stumbled him. Vargas, even though he recently just lost at 130 pounds to O'Shaquie Foster, right? He's still a very good champion, multiple division champion, especially in the 126-pound division. When you fight Ray Vargas, he's tricky because he's tall, he's rangy, he moves a lot, and he's got speed and power in his shot. So it's tough to land more than one shot on him at a time. And that's what I felt like some of the troubles that came for Hovhannisyan. Crazy A was having success, right? But it was mostly success from those one-off shots, right? Vargas didn't give him time to fire off more than one or two shots at a time. Hovhannisyan wasn't able to get on the inside like how he would have liked to, and Vargas stayed disciplined enough not to engage in Hovhannisyan's fight. But at the same time, man, Crazy A didn't look worried about what was being thrown at him at the same time. Now, in Hovhannisyan's most recent fight last year when he fought Dagoberto Anguero, in that first round, Hovhannisyan wasn't throwing a lot until the last minute of that fight. But what he was doing, right, to me, it looked like he was just trying to figure out the rhythm and the flow of Aguero, see what angles that he was taking, see how he was going to respond and react to certain things. And I was actually impressed with his footwork, right? The subtle switches from southpaw to orthodox to how he was cutting off the ring and how he was going about it. It was more of a tactical fight from the lower half of the body than when the knockouts came. He was setting up where Anguero was going to be. He was setting up where he wanted Anguero to be. However, in the second round, Anguero, for whatever reason, decided to trade shots with him. And I'm sure that was not the game plan initially. Hovhannisyan made him pay and he got the stoppage. Which brings me to this. So who wins? This is a tough one, honestly, right? I think this one comes down to discipline, especially for Luis Nery. Nery likes to fight. However, he can also be patient and outbox his opponent. But is that what he will do? I don't think he will be able to just move around the ring and outbox Hovhannisyan for every single round. There are going to be times when he's going to have to stand there and trade shots, and a fight is going to break out. Maybe not all of the rounds, but at some point, Hovhannisyan is going to test him. He's going to have to fight back. Luis Nery has been dropped before. Luis Nery has been on the canvas before, whereas Hovhannisyan has not been stopped before. Nery isn't a light puncher by no means. Hovhannisyan is there to get hit. Luis Nery, as he has went up other divisions, he's been hit a lot more than he was in previous divisions before. Hovhannisyan, he's also 34 years old. Now, maybe some of that age will catch up to him and slow him down a little bit. We don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe his hand speed at 34 years old won't be as quick, or he won't be as explosive. Now, when this fight was announced, there was a lot of people that said, man, Hovhannisyan is going to give the same problems that Brandon Figueroa gave Luis Nery. And I can see the comparisons between the two. I don't think Hovhannisyan throws as much as Figueroa does between the rounds. And I would say Hovhannisyan has more power than Brandon Figueroa, but they both break you down in similar fashion. Got to be honest here, I'm having a hard time picking this one. This might be a battle of heart and will. Who can get hit and who can punch back? Nery, to me, is the more complete fighter, right? But I think Hovhannisyan has the stronger will. And sometimes the will can overpower the skill. So right now, I'm leaning towards Azat Hovhannisyan to win this fight by late stoppage. I think this is a big fight that Luis Nery has to be disciplined and stick to his game plan. But will he be able to do so? I'm taking Azat Hovhannisyan to win this fight by late stoppage. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comments section below. If you would like to support the channel, there's a couple ways that you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth of this channel and will be greatly greatly appreciated. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video this long, then do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.